Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor can't seem to catch a break, and this time it's not another headline, another scandal, or another royal backlash. It's his own front driveway. Because while Andrew has been trying to disappear quietly into the background, new photos show his latest fresh start is already falling apart, literally. A muddy, pothole-riddled entrance, flood warnings in the area, and locals who are already fed up that the media circus followed him straight into their quiet village. And the deeper you look, the stranger it gets, because this move was supposed to reduce pressure, not create a whole new wave of attention. So how did Andrew end up here? Why are people saying this isn't really a punishment at all? And what does this latest problem reveal about how the royal family is handling him behind the scenes? Stick around, because the full story is messier than it looks. And if you want more fast, detailed breakdowns of royal drama and the headlines they don't want to explain, make sure you subscribe. By January, the situation had shifted. Andrew was removed from Royal Lodge, the 30-room Windsor property he had occupied for years. Officially, it was framed as a practical decision. Unofficially, many saw it as a clear signal. The space around him inside the royal institution was shrinking. Royal Lodge wasn't just a house, it represented status, stability, and visibility. Losing it carried symbolic weight. Reports suggested financial pressure had also played a role, with discussions about security costs and long-term upkeep adding strain. Whether that was the deciding factor or not, the outcome was clear: he had to move. The relocation to Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate was described as temporary, while renovations to Marsh Farm were underway. Smaller, more contained, quieter. But quieter doesn't always mean invisible, because while the move may have reduced square footage, it didn't reduce attention, and what surfaced next would only complicate things further. The move was supposed to bring stability. Instead, the first images from Marsh Farm told a different story. Photographs taken outside the property show a long driveway marked by deep potholes filled with muddy rainwater. Not a minor crack here or there, but visible damage across the entrance itself. For a residence meant to signal a quieter chapter, the optics were hard to ignore. But the driveway isn't the real issue. Marsh Farm sits on a floodplain. That detail alone changes the conversation. Residents in the surrounding area have been advised to register for flood alerts in case local defences fail. In other words, this isn't just about poor road maintenance, it's about environmental risk. And that's where things become more complicated. A flood risk assessment conducted nearby referenced the possibility of mechanical breakdown at the local pumping station. If that were to happen during severe weather, emergency measures would need to be deployed: temporary equipment, rapid response, containment. Which raises an obvious question: why choose this location at all? Because this wasn't a random rental, it's within royal estate land. Decisions about placement and renovation are deliberate, so either the risks were considered acceptable or the urgency to relocate outweighed them. And if urgency played a role, that suggests something else was happening behind the scenes. Still, there's another layer most people are missing. The symbolism hasn't gone unnoticed. After years of reputational turbulence, Andrew moves into a property facing structural and environmental concerns. For critics, the imagery almost writes itself. But the physical issues aren't what truly threaten his position. Because while the ground may be uneven, the reaction from the people around him could prove far more difficult to manage. The driveway problems may look like the headline, but the real tension started the moment people realized Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor wasn't just passing through. Because in the surrounding village, the reaction hasn't been sympathy, it's been frustration, and in some cases, outright disbelief. One resident summed it up bluntly, saying they were flabbergasted. Their point wasn't about potholes or flooding, it was about the bigger picture. If Andrew is truly meant to be an outcast, why is he still living on royal estate land at all? And that question has spread fast. Another local pointed out what many people quietly think but rarely say out loud. Even if he's been removed, he's still living in comfort, still surrounded by protection, still insulated from the kind of consequences that would hit anyone else instantly. And that's where this gets messy. Because this isn't just a story about a controversial figure moving house, it's a story about perception and whether the public believes the royal family is actually drawing a line or simply moving the problem out of sight. But the villagers weren't finished. A third resident complained that the media presence has already disrupted daily life. Suddenly, the quiet village atmosphere is gone. Cars, cameras, strangers lingering near roads, the kind of attention most locals never asked for and now can't avoid. And that irritation is only growing. Some residents even criticize the location itself, saying the home is too close to the road, too visible, too exposed. They argued that if he truly wanted privacy, a property deeper in the woods, surrounded by trees and far from other homes, would have made more sense, which leads to an uncomfortable possibility. Maybe privacy wasn't the priority, because if the goal was to keep him hidden, this was an odd choice, and if the goal wasn't to hide him, then what exactly was the goal? And that's where the story shifts. Because the biggest issue isn't the driveway, the flood risk, or even the locals. It's the fact that no matter where Andrew goes, the same shadow follows him, and it's not fading anytime soon. The real problem was never the house, it's the name. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's relocation hasn't erased the association that continues to resurface whenever his name trends. Being named in the Epstein files reignited scrutiny, even though he has consistently denied any wrongdoing. The distinction matters legally, but in public opinion, perception often moves faster than facts, and that's where the pressure lingers. Because this isn't just about past headlines, it's about whether time actually changes anything. Years have passed, titles have been removed, public duties stripped away, military affiliations gone, yet the controversy still defines the conversation, and that's the part no property move can fix. Within the institution, the strategy appears cautious, distancing but not total removal, silence rather than confrontation, a quieter role without formal rehabilitation. It's a delicate balance, protecting the monarchy while limiting exposure. But that balance creates another problem. If he remains on royal grounds, critics argue he's still protected. If he were pushed further out, it would signal something stronger. Instead, he sits in the middle, not fully embraced, not fully separated. And that middle ground feels unstable. Public trust, once fractured, rarely rebuilds quickly. Even neutral developments attract suspicion. Even ordinary setbacks become symbolic. The potholes, the flood risks, the villagers' frustration, none of them exist in isolation. They attach themselves to a larger narrative. And that narrative hasn't shifted. Which raises the unavoidable question, is this long-term containment or permanent limbo? Because if there were a path back to normalcy, signs of it would likely have appeared by now. Instead, what we're seeing feels like maintenance, not restoration, and that may be the clearest indication of all. Because when a reputation stops evolving, it doesn't heal, it just settles into place. In the end, this was never just about a move. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor may have left one residence behind, but the shift hasn't changed the larger reality. The scrutiny is still there, the questions are still there, and now even the setting meant to signal a quieter chapter is attracting attention of its own. The relocation was supposed to lower the temperature. Instead, it's highlighted something else, that he exists in a space that's neither full removal nor full restoration, close enough to remain protected, distant enough to suggest consequence, but not far enough to end the debate. And that balance may be the real story, because while headlines focus on potholes or flood risks, the deeper issue is whether this situation is temporary or permanent, whether this is careful management during a storm or simply how things will remain. For now, he stays on royal land, out of the spotlight, but never fully out of conversation. And that leaves one lingering question. Is this the final chapter of his public life, or just a quieter one? If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more clear, in-depth coverage of the stories shaping the royal family. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this move changes anything at all?